Hey, you're tuned in to Tech Talk with VLink, an award-winning podcast brought to you by VLink Inc.
Welcome to the Tech Talk with VLink podcast, where we dive in how shifting technology, strategy, and leadership intersect across industries. I'm your host, Tracy Gardner, and today we're peeling back the layers of one of the most profound shifts in finance, how artificial intelligence is moving from hype to real transformation in the capital markets ecosystem. Joining us is Jay Caceres, a seasoned investment specialist with deep experience in capital market strategy, private credit, and advisory work at leading financial institutions. Jay, thanks so much for being here today.
Tracy, it's my pleasure.
Jay, in this episode, we're going to talk about how AI is being applied across trading, risk, operation, advisory, and deal making. So I thought I'd start out by asking you, can you define AI in the context of capital markets? Like, are we talking about machine learning models in trading, natural language processing in deal execution, automation in operations, or kind of all of it?
Tracy, in 2025 rather, it's all of the above, right?
Yeah.
Whether it comes from a training standpoint in regards to new hires learning, but also leveraging efficiency through processing, through trading, and even communicating amongst other employees. We're really leveraging from every chain of the portfolio.
Yeah. Well, Jay, from where you sit, what would you say is the most under-celebrated way AI is already reshaping capital markets today?
And that is a phenomenal question. I think the most under-celebrated way is truly through research, the ability to find research amongst different companies and how they're doing across the world, all instantaneously by leveraging AI is probably the most powerful way that we're using it today.
Yeah, and probably changing a lot of things at the same time. I mean, in real time, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The amount of information we're able to consume today,
Mhm.
again, instantaneously compared to just a decade ago, is night and day.
Yeah, I bet it is. Can you share maybe one or two examples of AI or advanced analytics at work in the capital markets today?
Yeah. So I recently worked at one of the largest asset managers in the world. Their risk analytics platform actually allowed them to read 10Ks instantaneously of tens of thousands of companies, all at the same time. And the ability, again, to have that information where, perhaps a decade ago, you needed hundreds of people to consume that information, digest that information, and even summarize that information. We're able to do that instantaneously. So that power in being able to create not just efficiency, but in the speed of time that we're doing today really leverages the power of AI to help
Yeah.
scale their businesses.
It really does. And speaking of scale, do you think there's a gap between maybe pilot projects with AI in the capital markets and scale? And what would you say maybe are the biggest blockers, Jay? You see that maybe is keeping AI from scaling across the enterprise?
Yeah, and that's something that's so relevant today. We just launched a pilot, and I can't speak too much about that because it's still in pilot mode. However, when you think about the biggest blockers, it was really the infrastructure of the existing platform and moving on to the new AI-based platform. So that transition and integration, which is what we called it,
Mhm.
was the most difficult part to overcome. Transitioning the information but also the habits of our employees to now start to leverage the new technology moving forward.
Yeah, we have to retrain people to deal with AI for sure, and in all industries, not just capital markets, but everywhere.
That's right.
For sure. With AI increasingly embedded into our decision making day to day, what would you say are the new risk vectors that institutional investors, maybe asset managers, even banks must watch for?
Yeah, I think the most powerful way institutions and financial institutions are leveraging AI is combining the technology aspect with the human intelligence aspect, right? So we
Yeah.
we truly believe in not just leveraging uh, the analytics and the AI recommendations, but also to give a human touch so that it's tailored to our client. I think that's the most important part. The machine may not know everything about our clients, and our touch in particular can help narrow that scope so that we're making accurate decisions for our clients.
Yeah, we certainly don't want to lose the human touch. I think that's what people fear with AI is losing that human element of it, of just everything. You don't want to lose all that to artificial intelligence. It's scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jay, really, governance is so important when we're talking about AI. In your mind, how should leadership in finance and maybe tech teams work together to ensure that robust governance, maybe ethical use, even compliance when deploying AI in the capital markets?
Well, I think this is what sets apart the companies that continue to move forward and the companies that have fallen behind. And it really comes down to the C-suite level that has embraced the technology and has incorporated that into the business. But with that, I think there was a recent quote by Brian Moynihan, the CEO of Bank of America, who said, our greatest risk and our greatest opportunity tends to be the exact same thing moving forward. And that is how
Yeah.
we and that is how we control, security within our technology. So security is a big factor when it comes to finance and the companies and
Yes.
institutions. So again, that governance, the ethical use, the compliance, that's all something that is top priority the more you incorporate technology.
Yeah, as well it should be. I think those guardrails are so important, and we've been talking about them for about 3 years now. I know I go back to podcasts I did 3 years ago on AI, and I remember the experts we're interviewing talking about guardrails and how important it is with ethical AI, for sure. Um, so what changes do you think firms are needing to make in their operational model, maybe people, processes, data infrastructure, for instance, to support AI-driven workflows in financial markets?
Yeah, so as we started the call, I talked a little bit about the pilot that we just, we're in the process of completing. And it's all about the infrastructure. I think if you're able to hone in on what's needed to transition that infrastructure from the old infrastructure into the new one, if you're able to complete that successfully, I think the transition overall for the firm is going to be a lot easier. Again, I heard
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos say recently that we have to move at a pace that the company can support, right? And it's not just immediately transitioning technology one year over the other, but it's doing so in a way where the people, the process, and the infrastructure can
Yeah.
really keep up with the change.
Yeah, definitely don't put the cart before the horse. We've heard that analogy so many times. When you advise a financial service institution, Jay, what's the first strategic question you ask around AI in cap markets? Is it maybe cost reduction, risk mitigation, maybe customer experience they're concerned about, or is it something else?
Well, that's precisely my question. It's starting with the why. What are we using this technology for? Is it to benefit the client? Is it to create efficiencies in the workflow?
Mhm.
Is it to make your employees smarter and faster? That's really where we start from the question standpoint. And then that way we know what the ultimate North Star is. What is the goal here? And I think depending on the type of institution, the banking institutions will tend to create, for example, apps that will benefit the client to create more efficiencies, to have them be able to do things more from home. Whereas other institutions, such as asset managers, can do it so that their employees become stronger, smarter, faster, have the information at their fingertips. So it really depends on the type of financial institution and what the goal is.
Yeah, determining the why is so important even outside of in the industry. Jay, just for fun, let's fast forward 5 years from now. We're sitting in 2025. It's 2030. What does an AI-enabled capital markets maybe desk look like at a mid-sized asset manager or bank?
Yeah, so that is a great question because that's precisely what I was thinking about in your previous question. And when I think about the asset managers that I worked for and how they were just starting to incorporate AI in order to find information as clients were to call in and ask questions to our employees about what our thoughts were about a specific sector or economy, the ability for our employees to now have that at their fingertips, perhaps a few types away, is truly powerful. And it's just
Yeah,
because they have so much information that they have to consume all at once, right? An asset manager has hundreds, if not thousands, of different products. And for each employee to be an expert in every single one is almost impossible. So having that
absolutely.
information from an AI platform base, I think is truly going to leverage scale from that angle.
Big help. Oh, for sure. And all the emerging technologies out there, like even generative AI or others that you believe will become mainstream in capital markets in the 18 to 24 months. Any idea about some emerging technologies you want to mention?
Yeah. So, for example, a lot of firms now are using it. So, for financial advisors, for example, they're able to type into an AI-based platform, you search for my clients who have Apple stock within their portfolios. And then it
Hmm.
will create a list specifically if Apple's going through some volatility in the markets. They're able to now narrow in a list of their clients that have exposure to that and specifically reach out and call them and help have a conversation around that. And I think that power of being able to leverage the technology to make your workflow much more efficient is really what's going to push the integration of technology and AI in particular within the financial services industry.
And you got to get buy-in. So let's talk about the C-suite really quickly. C-suite executives like yourself make mistakes do you see them make when they treat AI in capital markets as a technology maybe project instead of a business strategy for transformation?
And a great example of this was right before COVID, right? Those who weren't embracing it, didn't embrace Zoom, for example, or didn't embrace the ability of work from home and the power of how that's able to scale your employees. Those who didn't do it were scrambling at a very last minute in order to do that
Mm.
during COVID. And I think a lot of them learned from that mistake. Right. I was working at a different
Yes.
institution that perhaps wasn't prepared for that transition, but immediately needed to prepare in a matter of days to help keep their business alive. So a lot of C-suite have now learned from that mistake and are starting to embrace it. But others are really truly embracing it by investing hundreds of millions of dollars into the
Yeah.
technology to help create efficiencies within their practice. And it's not
And
to get rid of certain employees, but rather help their employees become more efficient.
yeah, and that investment is definitely going to propel them ahead of the others for sure. I mean, it's
Certainly.
like you've got to invest or you're going to be left behind. Um, Jay, my last question would be if you were to leave our audience with just one actionable takeaway about how AI is quietly reshaping financial markets and how they should act today, what would it be?
Well, that would be that infrastructure is incredibly important, right? There's technology, but you also have to have the infrastructure for it. And that can be as simple as, the current platform that financial institutions are using, perhaps the banks and the current apps that they're using. It's really what's setting everyone apart, but it's also going to be what it allows you to create excellence in the execution of incorporating AI within your business.
Good advice. Good advice. Well, Jay, thank you so much for sharing the valuable insights on how AI is transforming capital markets from the inside out. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And at VLink, we've seen this firsthand through our work with leading global institutions like BlackRock supporting development and integration for their eFront and Aladdin products. That experience has definitely given us a front row seat to how technology, data, and analytics can drive smarter, more agile investment operations. For listeners who want to explore how VLink can help your organization accelerate AI adoption, strengthen compliance maybe, and modernize your capital markets technology stack, visit us at vlinkinfo.com to learn more about our financial services and capital market solutions. Thanks again, Jay, and thanks for all of you for tuning into this episode of Tech Talk with VLink.